So today we will be doing our demonstration of our project this semester. So we as a group chose to do a student information system called A Plus Student Information System, and kind of our overall goal from the start was to make an application that provides the capability to record and track information about a school district and the schools which make them up. That allows faculty and student to kind of utilize that student information system as you would typically see at a K-12 school.
Alright, so when we did deliverable 2 with iteration 1 and 2, we did something like we did in class where we identified entities and attributes for iteration 1. So here's our iteration 1 diagram. We tried to maintain a closed world assumption with this. And so here's iteration 2. We added relationships. So for example, we have now that grade report is for a class. We have several other relationships, of course. And then when we went to iteration 3, we added a few ER diagram constructs. Like for example, with employee, we originally had these as relationships, but we just made it overlapping because we felt like employee could be faculty, administration, facility support, or kind of none of the above.
Now you can see here we have our RDM diagram. You can see some of the logical relations we created as we went further in, such as how a student has a transcript, and a transcript has a semester, which furthermore has a grade report. We did make some changes over time to this, such as creating a connection with employee, and a few changes to our ER diagram as we noticed some issues that needed to be corrected that were very obvious because of our RDM diagram.
Okay, and so after we moved from the initial iterations into the RDM, the next step was to put it into DDL and DML SQL files and begin kind of working on our database. So you can see, just briefly, we're going to go look at our DDL file. We have a bunch of create table statements with the foreign key and primary key all shown. From there, we made a DML file that puts basically fake data into our database so that we can test against it. And finally, we started writing some basic queries just to get the hang of working in SQL.
Next, I wanted to show you our seed script that we created. Our seed script right there. It runs wonderfully, and I can open up and show you the generated file, temp.sql. You can see how it's formatted. The input argument was 10, so each table has 10 tuples. As I go down, you can sort of see how they're each separated by a space. And this works.
Okay, so once the seed group was created, we moved towards building an application and working on that. So we're going to run our application here with our Gradle run command. It's going to open up a small GUI for us that will use the database that's currently loaded in prior to the video. And in that, we see some of the details. So first, it opens on this districts tab. We're going to change this district. We have 5 different districts loaded in right now. We're going to change it to CUSD and hit submit. When we do that, we'll see some information about CUSD. The schools are in it. We can go to the schools tab and actually see more information about those schools. So we're going to choose Arizona College Prep and submit that one. You see that there's 2 students there, and they have this one class offered. We can look at the employees of that school. We've got Bob Jones and Tammy Baker. Now we can filter these employees by a couple different things here. So let's say we want to look at only employees that have been working for 1 to 2 years. We see that no employees are there. But if we go to 3 to 5, now Bob Jones shows back up. So Bob Jones is clearly an employee who has worked for anywhere between 3 to 5 years. Now again, if we change this to female, we'll see that Bob Jones will be taken off the list. But if we bring it back to male, he's again there. Finally, area, he's a faculty member. So if we choose faculty, we will still see him there. But if we choose administration, we will not, because he's not an administrator. We can go over the students tab and look at some different students. So I'll pick the first student. I'll say submit, and we'll look and we'll get some information about that student, see their classes and whatnot. We can actually do modify here and say we want to, let's say they moved to a different city. So we're going to make that Gilbert instead. Save those changes. Now if we go into modify, you'll see that it actually did save. It saved to the database, so it did an update statement there. And finally, we've got a classes tab. You can get some information about classes, and then a clubs tab as well.
All right, so now we're gonna just go over our unit tests. So I can run greet all tests in here and show that all our tests are successful. We wrote 20 unit tests, so you can see the build was successful. So I just want to talk a little bit about our rationale. So we did test a good sampling of our embedded queries. We felt pretty confident our DML didn't put the database in an invalid state because we're really only modifying data about the student. If the user enters an invalid zip, it's reset. We tested with some different types and conversions like date, big integer. And so now I want to talk a little bit about how we changed our requirements documentation. Originally, our requirements weren't very specific about the application we'd be building, and so we added a lot more information about that application. So also, we did change our DDL and DMO. Specifically, what we did is we added some not null constraints where it seemed necessary, like to employees' school name, to the grade level, and then also we noticed that there were actually some problems with our DML where there were some invalid grade levels.